When he came back to his drawing, everything is forgotten. The doctors who were coming to see him every day, he couldn't recognize them. He will say, who are you? They introduce again and again. So here, a brain lesion is changing the memory, the thinking process. There are numerous examples. After head injuries, I'm sure any of your people who are around you, if they have suffered from a severe head injury, there are a lot of behavior changes. And their thinking process is affected, okay? So it is both ways. I mean, he has talked in a higher plane of philosophy. I'm talking in a more of a daily things what we see. It is both ways.
Just one second, there's one more comment.
Just one comment I'll give. That's a very thought-provoking thing, and I'll bring it down further than what her level is. So, in a way, as a biologist, I think actually, mind does not exist. It's all brain. Okay?
He thinks it's all brain.
In future, both will probably merge together. We as a human being, that includes me who is a neuroscientist who wants to know everything about the brain, I cling to the notion of mind because that gives me something as myself bigger than what we call my Nashwar Sharir or whatever you want to call it. So I want to think of it as a bigger than this body. And that's why I cling on to this notion of mind. So that's one possibility. And today we don't have answer to that. Maybe at some point in the future we'll have answer to that. And that's one of the things that you're saying why we talk about mind, because we want to know who am I. And am I better than my brain? You know, something like that.
Ajit ji, actually.
I would like to add here that it's neither brain nor mind. It's the diet which you take. That has a very big role to play.
It is what?
Diet.
Diet.
Food. The quality of the food.
See what? Ajit ji, you were asking.
I have one more question with Dorji, Mr. Dorji, that how will you define meditation?
Very good. Meditation. In a strict sense and in a loose sense. In a loose sense, it is habituating your mind on a particular object. Habituating your mind on a particular object by increasing the power of mindfulness and introspection. Habituating your mind on a particular object by increasing the power of introspection and mindfulness, two things. In a strict sense, habituating your mind on a virtuous object which makes your mind happier. Which would be, say for example, how to destroy the other person. You know, you may be thinking so much severe on that. With mindfulness and introspection. So that is a form of meditation, but it's a destructive meditation. Whereas in a strict sense, meditation is meant to make you happy. Right? So, meditation in a strict sense is defined as habituating one's mind on a virtuous object, which makes your mind more virtuous and more happy by increasing the power of introspection and mindfulness. Thank you.
Kumar, founder Khushigram, and my question is on ethics, spirituality and science together. The discussion that we had on brain, mind control and who will control the brains or minds. And would it be like the richer people or the stronger people controlling the brains, and would it lead to disaster, destruction, and eventually destruction of the entire earth or our entire system? So, is it like, can we use meditation or like yoga, World International Yoga Day is now there from this year. So better diet in terms of, or that thinking inculcated during early schooling, that education, that values where you think of others, when you think of betterment of others and good things together in the system through science. Of course, science is there. So when we teach science, we teach of specific details of all these things. So how will you connect all these?
I'll just answer part of this thing when you talk of ethical questions or something like that. That's a very serious problem. If we can actually find out that this 100 neurons or 1,000 neurons code for an information which is your love for your mother or my love for my mother, for example. And if you stimulate them, you start loving. If you destroy that, you stop loving. And experiments like that are being done. Actually creates a very serious neuroethological problem at two levels. One, should we even be studying? That's for society to decide, right? We are curious, we will keep on studying. But if society as a whole can somehow put a lid to it, maybe it can, but it will have some negative consequences in terms of progress towards curing mental diseases and things like that. The second question is, how do you use that knowledge? Now, there's never going to be an answer to that in the way the society exists today. There's always a difference in the power. There's always a difference in the influence of one human being over the other. And obviously, eventually, powerful will end up using it to their benefit. That's something that society has to decide. But that's how I see it. And it's scary thought, actually.
I think I understood the way you said yoga and what it does and can we do it from childhood. Is that what you said? You see, if you take the Ashtanga yoga, there are 8 steps of yoga, which includes what is called dinacharya, the day, the time you get up, the way what you do, what you eat, how do you yoga, meditation, dhyana, and all that. If all that is inculcated, obviously you'll develop a human being, which he is mentioning, a stable person who is not moved too much, not too much anger, not too much of sorrow, that kind of a thing. And you're right, in Karnataka, I mean, I was in NIMHANS for 25 years. In Karnataka, in all the schools, they introduced yoga at a particular age. So I think that's why I think the Prime Minister has even talked about Yoga Day and yoga should be taught. But it's not just physical, the way it is popularized in the West. It's all doing what? Power yoga and some yoga. I think this is all more merchandise rather than anything else. The true spirit of yoga has to be Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, 8 steps of yoga, which I've learned actually. What movie? Lucy. Have you seen this movie?
What will happen if
I
we
know.
start
Heard
using
about it.
our brain up to 100% or up to 80%? What will be
Science
the
fiction.
Will it be possible, or can we be able to, whatever it was, can we be able to realize or feel or get into this thing, what actually will happen if we start using more and more of our percentage of the brain?
Okay. To make it very quick, again, it goes back to the same point, like what the Secretary of TIFAC said earlier. You use your brain 100%. Say, because of this, you know every atom of the universe, how the atoms they are vibrating, every movement of your mind, what is going to happen in the future, your death, tomorrow, all these things. Then you're so scared, right? Then, oh, tomorrow is my mother's death. Day after tomorrow is my father's death. Then you are in the world of chaos, and But this is a clear indication of lack of wisdom, right? Without wisdom, the knowledge can be very destructive to yourself. With wisdom, the knowledge can be extremely helpful, because you know that, say, your mother is dying tomorrow. Because of this knowledge, 100% uses your brain, and then if you have a wisdom, you will. There are 24 hours left with your mother. You will be exceptionally kind to her. And you can even console her as to how to tackle her death in a very skillful ways. Whereas if you don't have this wisdom, then you become paranoid, and then you will end up yourself in the hospital. right? And the other point about the diet, not the mind, not the brain, but the diet, right? So this also we need to think very seriously, right? The richest person, they might have in the five-star hotels, they might have the best of the diets, but they can be the worst of the unhappy person. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So these of the richest people, they have dietitians. What actually your body needs, they are so concerned about that, and they are so unhappy. They have to depend on sleeping pills, tranquilizers. They have the best of the diet, with the dietitians, best of the dietitians there, right? So this does not make you a good person, a happy person. So there's something more. Thank you.
The Ayurvedic principle says there's 3 types of diets: the tamasic, the rajasic, and sattvic. Okay, it depends upon what you eat. Your personality is dependent on diet. So Ayurveda strongly recommends what type of diet. Tamasic are very angry, emotional. Rajasic are supposed to be intellectual. Sattvic are more religious, philosophers like him. So these are the 3 levels which at least Ayurveda discusses.
Just to make a quick point, I don't think there's a scientific evidence that we use 20% of our brain. Brain is highly energy consuming organ. It consumes 20% of total calories that our body uses. Evolution would not let us survive with the entire brain if we were using only 20% of the brain. We would have had only 20% of the brain. So this is a myth actually. Scientifically it's a myth.
You have left one of the aspects of mind. Question is very simple. Do you think that if there is only one mind, it will develop? Or mind can only develop with interactions with other minds? So development of mind is a social process, is a combined process, or can we talk about one mind and all the properties of one mind only? My second question is that what is about the content of mind? How it gets related to the world?
That is in terms of that is what normally we call perception, right? The way we interact with the world, we perceive what is out there, we get knowledge about the world. So, and that content will differ depending on various factors. Different organisms gather different kinds of knowledge about the world. The bats presumably have a kind of knowledge that definitely we do not have because their perceptual systems are completely different. So that the content would depend on the kinds of perceptual and motor systems.
Can we just go back to the first point which you said, Dr. Srinivasan?
Yeah.
The first point which you said.
Yes.
I think, when in terms of you said it earlier, like, we are talking about the neural, you can make some changes in the one of the neurons. So there we are talking about the individual, right?
Sure.
The individual brain.
Yeah, but the neurons change depending upon the world that it is seeing or experiencing. And the world consists of other human beings.
No. The question is, like, like the brain enhancement kind of techniques which you use, and you are deliberately, let's say, making some neuron some faculty is being improved, and you said some other faculty may become casualty. So can you think about it in a collective fashion, like go beyond the individual neural network and look at it collectively? Maybe we should have a social scientist to answer, but probably you can throw some light on it. I think you are touching upon that point in some fashion.
Well, I don't know if I can answer this question at all. I'm really not sure because most of the drugs or intervention techniques are very specific to specific mental processes, cognitive processes, or specific neural mechanisms. So of course there are these things like meditation which are presumably holistic and affect a lot. So we think that that could be the kind of thing that you might be looking for. But we don't have a final answer, because that depends on, again, what kind of goals you have.
Comment with an implicit question. Hi, so I'd like to move back to the topic of the discussion, race between mind and machine. And I would like to thank Damdulji for giving spiritual perspectives which are almost in the same language of systems theory and history and philosophy of science. And it essentially boiled down to a race between hypotheses rather than a race between mind and machine. And ideas like a system is the sum of parts are belonging to the 19th and 20th century. I mean, history and philosophy of science have progressed too much to, make us be a bit more reflexive when we are constructing hypotheses. For example, a theory of waste emerged after thermodynamics and modern economics. So can we be a bit more reflexive in framing our hypothesis of what this race between mind and machine is, and be sensitive to different levels of uncertainties, because uncertainties are not just epistemic, they can be ontological, they can be cosmological, you may never know. So a bit amount of reflexivity won't hurt, and this is perhaps a part of the larger debates on artificial intelligence, that there's a race of...
Make it short.
Yes, something very simple. You talk about neuroplasticity of the brain as well as molding the brain. So this is for you, Dr. Gauri.
Yeah.
There is a therapy called neurofeedback therapy which is happening in Bangalore. I want to know the effects of this therapy versus medication. And also something which Dr. Ranjan touched upon the last time I met him was binaural beats. So I want to know the effects of this versus medication, how it's affecting the brain. Does it really last, or like medication, it'll last as long as the medication's taken, or for a shorter period of time, or do we need to go back to the therapy time and again for it to be more sustainable?
I think
there is a physical brain and there is mind, and when it is subtler, then it can go away from it. Whereas Neeraj told that at some point of time, maybe mind and brain can come at one point, which should not be the case, I would say like that, because it is not the notes where music comes from, it is the space in between the two notes where the interplay will give you different tunes at different point of time. So that is one question to you, is whether where is intellect? Because we have used the word brain, we have used the word mind, but TIFAC is using with, working with intellectual property.
Intellectual property.
And there, Ranjan has given us some notes like definitions where it is told that some of the thing which comes from brain to intellect are in the way, so there can be some patriotic effect in between, and that is where the intellect will break. Now, I am very much convinced with that you can say sub-race who are very much business-minded. I would like to know from you why some people are more business-minded and why others are more brainy. That is the question.
let the questions come first. Okay?
Dinner time.
Yeah, go ahead, I think you can. Go. Yeah, go ahead.
In all these deliberations, one word is missing. We are not talking about heart.
Oh, right.
We say, I feel it by my brain, my mind, my heart. My heart goes out to that person. Which is that part of the way does that fit in?
Yeah.
The whole thing, consciousness, that perception, or intellect. Where does the heart come and does it have any role to play? That's my
Okay, let him ask his question.
I will answer that.
Good evening. My name is Dr. H. Purushottam. I am working as a chairman and managing director of NRDC, the National Research Development Corporation. We are in the era of intellectual property rights. And India has, I think, taken a lead in digitizing the traditional knowledge digital library. In the similar way, whether India can take a lead in digitizing the traditional wisdom so that it helps the next generations, the future generations, and the knowledge of our rishis and our saints, which they have created on this earth, probably can be protected, and India can take a lead in that. This is what I think Dr. Prabhat Ranjan himself is an expert in this area. I request probably TIFAC in association with many other labs or scientists who are working in this area, probably can take a lead, and with the guidance and help of our Secretary DST, who is also philosophically inclined, probably I think we can get a boost and take this initiative so that future generations gets benefit out of our efforts.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we'll we've run out of time, so we'll actually try to stop the session and go over to, because a lot of people are leaving also. But in Technology Vision 2035 also we are talking of this aspect, so we'll cover that. But let me stop this because there's so much interesting, but what I promised to you, we'll come back. We'll come back with a longer session which we have more time to explore, because such an interesting thing, we're just heating up, warming up actually, and we could go on for hours. But we thought it's a glimpse only. We'll follow it up and we'll have a bigger time.
Thanks a lot to all the dignitaries. And here I just want to share one scripture from Upanishad, which says, Atmaiv Atmano Bandhu, Atmaiv Irupuratmana. Our own mind is our best friend, and our own mind is our worst enemy.
Very good.
So before we conclude this session, I would like to request our Executive Director, Dr. Prabhat Ranjan, to please felicitate our dignitaries with memento.
So this memento actually is the brain. Of course, we could have done individual brains also if we had MRI scan. using 3D printing, so actually it can be made individual. So it's using 3D printing, which we have been trying to promote. So it's customized to individual needs. We can make customized individual brains also, but right now it's a common brain that we have used. And what we are seeing is that actually you can make molds very cheaply. Like this, whatever cost was there for making one, we could make a mold and then you copy it. But we want to individualize, so each one of them has a different name written on this. So please bring.
Ladies and gentlemen, please have it on.
Just your name. Thank you. Yes, thank you. You had an LED lamp also. Oh, okay. Be careful that I don't go other.
So I hope it's the feminine brain, and I don't know where the mind is then.
Thank you, all the dignitaries. And now, I would like to invite on stage our registrar, Mr. Rishipal Singh, for signing off this ceremony with vote of thanks. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
It's beautifully done.
Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Anil Kakotkar Sahab, Secretary, DST, Professor Asutosh Sharma Sahab, respected dignitaries, media persons, and my colleagues. It is a privilege and pleasure for me to render vote of thanks to all the speakers and guests for gracing this occasion of 28th Foundation Day. It was indeed a pleasure to witness a thought-provoking panel discussion on future brain. My heartfelt thanks to all the panelists, Dr. Gauri Devi, Professor Neeraj Jain, Professor Narayan Srinivasan, Geshe Dorji Domalal, and our Executive Director, Professor Prabhat Ranjan Sahab. I express my sincere thanks to our Honorable Chairman, Dr. Anil Kakotkar, for TIFAC Day lecture. Special thanks to the children from National Association for Blind New Delhi, who rendered beautiful Vandana, and also would like to express my thanks to Professor Gadre, under whose guidance we could witness the electronic lamp lighting ceremony. The successful culmination of this program is the result of guidance of our Executive Director, Professor Prabhat Ranjan. And I would like to conclude my vote of thanks by conveying my heartiest thanks to the team who worked day and night to make this event so wonderful. Thanks to all once again, and now humbly inviting for you the dinner. Thank you very much.